Noswaith, good evening, guys. We are back here for another episode of the pod. Guto, we are closing in now on the NFC and the AFC Championship games following the Divisional Round on the weekend. And more than that, the coaching carousel keeps to turn. We've got, I think, half of the head coaching jobs in terms of teams have been filled. Some are very, very intriguing. However, I think we've got around 4 or 5 that are still open. One that's obviously with the Buffalo Bills has just been added in the last couple of days rather. A lot of people saw that as a big shot with Sean McDermott after being with Buffalo for around 8 years, I believe, and getting to an AFC Championship game, getting to the divisional round so many times, but they just couldn't get over that hump. They couldn't even, just get to the Super Bowl. Well, the classic line, Gito, was they were at one time, I believe in 2020, 13 seconds away from being in the Super Bowl. But then they came up against the mighty Mahomes, Tyreek, and Kelsey at the time, and the Chiefs got there in the end, and that's when they won eventually their first Super Bowl. Anyway, so yeah, welcome back. We've got a lot. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode, Gito, because obviously we're going to preview the NFC and the AFC Championship game between the Broncos and the Patriots on the AFC side, and then the NFC side we've got the Rams traveling to Seattle. So we've got an NFC West battle there. Very, very intriguing games, I have to say. In terms of our predictions, Gito, for the divisional games, no major shocks, I guess. I didn't expect the craziest game for me was the Patriots Texans games when we had, I think there were 8 or maybe 10 turnovers between both teams. Eventually, Patriots coming out on top. Both defenses played obviously very, very well, but ultimately, CJ Stroud, he's struggled a lot during the playoffs this year. And I think he turned the ball. I think he turned the ball over 3 or 4 times against the Patriots on Sunday.
Yeah, he did. A lot of people saying that the weather might have had a bit of thing on there. So
yeah,
with CJ Stroud as well, I read something about after the game, and it was a pretty good point actually. The New England Patriots, they all trained during the week in the snow in the outside. The Houston Texans trained in their stadium inside a dome where they're used to the conditions and everything on there. Going into New England in that weather condition, because it wasn't great conditions at all, and a lot of miscatches were happening in the game due to the balls being so wet as well. But yeah, it just didn't work out for the Texans. Their training strategy probably didn't work. They should have probably trained even more outside, or probably gone to New England pretty early to get some training and get used to the weather as well. But it worked perfectly for the New England Patriots. They were pretty sloppy at times as well. Both teams were sloppy, so you have to admit. But at the end of the day, Drake, mate, it took him some spectacular throws to actually win the game as well. A lot of running games as well, but ultimately they got the job done in the end, the Patriots. So a deserved win for the Patriots. Proved to be the best of the two teams, and we've got an intriguing matchup in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, I watched the majority of that game, Guitar, and I firstly I have to say, despite all the turnovers and the struggles of CJ Stroud and the offense, but however, I have to say that he was without Nico Collins, his best wide receiver, and I'm very aware that Dalton Schultz, his top tight end, went out in the first quarter as well. So he was down to the bare bones in terms of who he was throwing to. So I completely get that. Yes, he did struggle with the snow. The one thing that I will say, Guitar, is that defense for the Texans is probably one of the best defenses I've seen for a long, long, long time. And if it wasn't for a better offensive performance, I think that defense, that unit, deserves to be in the Super Bowl. It was
Mm.
meant to be. So the Patriots march on, like you said, in the other matchup that we had between the Broncos and the Bills that ultimately went to overtime. The Broncos kicking a field goal to win 33-30, I believe, against Josh Allen,
Yeah.
who had a terrible game, I have to say. Two ridiculous turnovers where he tried to turn into Superman once again. He never seems to learn. Yes, he's won an MVP. He's in the running this year, but the guy never learns guitar. He tries to do everything by himself. And a lot of people are saying, well, this should be on the Bills GM for not giving him any weapons. Fair enough. They've got a brilliant running game. They had a lot of in-game injuries as well. However, the biggest injury, Gito, let's be honest, was to Bo Nix, who has broken a bone in his shin or in his ankle, I believe, on the last play, but on the last but one play, I think, where he was scrambling. So ultimately, his team is going to the AFC Championship. The Broncos won, but they're going to be starting their backup QB. So Jared Stidham, of all people, hasn't thrown a ball in the NFL for 2 years. And all of a sudden, in around 48 hours' time, he's going to be playing in the AFC Championship game against the Patriots with the possibility of going to the Super Bowl, which is absolutely mental, if you ask me.
Yeah, his last game was 4 snaps in a 44-24 win against the Cowboys in Week 8 of the 2023 seasons. That was when Russell Wilson was the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. It's an unfortunate situation what's happened to Bo Nix. I believe it was either a scramble or it came from a kneel in the end when they were kneeling for a field goal,
Yeah,
and it was just pure unluckiness there. And I'm absolutely gutted for him. I'm so gutted that we don't get to see Bo Nix against Drake May, two of the best in the AFC this season by a mile, I think. But we get Jared Stidham instead. So um, it's happened before. We know the story about Nick Foles of the Philadelphia Eagles, where Carson Wentz got injured, so he had to
yes,
take over, and Nick Foles ultimately won the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles, winning their first Super Bowl as well. So we could see a similar story with
yeah,
Jared Stidham. Whether that happens or not, we'll get to our predictions later on, but it will be an interesting situation there. But yeah, absolutely guessing for Bo Nix. Josh Allen did score 3 touchdowns in that game, but he could have scored way more in that game as well. And yeah, it's like I said, he doesn't have a lot of weapons around him. Great running offense, not so good running defense from the Bills. That's been the story the whole season, I believe, as well. So, and unfortunately, it's led to their head coach being fired in the middle of the week.
yeah.
Mm.
Gito, another thing that the Bills fans have been crying over this week as well, and maybe it was legitimate, maybe not, was obviously there was a massive call by the officials,
Yeah.
potentially a missed call on a deep throw. 7 minutes to go in overtime, Josh Allen to, I believe it was Brandon Cooks. So Cooks caught the ball, fell to the ground. In the process of falling to the ground, it was ripped out of his hands by the defender, by the cornerback or the safety
Mm.
of the Broncos. I can't remember his name, and the refs ruled it as a turnover. However, the problem was that happened in another game. I believe it was in on the NFC side. I can't remember which one it was, but it was ruled a catch. So
Mm.
obviously the Bills fans are extremely unhappy with this because obviously if that catch would have been deemed, a successful catch, they would have kicked a field goal and they would have been in the AFC
Yeah.
Championship game. They'd be
Of course.
well, they wouldn't be hosting. They'd be going to Denver to face the Broncos without Bo Nix. So I can clearly see that as well. So unfortunately, there's always seems to be one or two massive missed calls by the officials when it comes down to playoff time. So that was a massive one for me, and maybe that rule of when it's a completed catch or when it's not will be revised over the off season, over the summer, but we'll see anyway.
Yeah.
So if we switch over to the NFC side, the NFC Championship game again will be an NFC West showdown between the LA Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. I thoroughly enjoyed the beatdown of the 49ers by the Seattle Seahawks. I know that the 49ers have a lot of injuries, but let's be honest, Gito, if there's one team that stands out in the NFL throughout the season, and especially second half of the season, even through the playoffs, it's been the Seattle Seahawks. They look
Yeah.
balanced. Sam Darnold doesn't even have to work that hard, Gito, and the Seahawks
Yeah.
still won by over 30 points. And then obviously on the other, so the Rams actually came through a really tough comeback from the Bears. I believe they were double digits down in the fourth quarter. And although what an amazing throw and catch that was made by Caleb Williams right at the end there to bring the scores level. Ultimately, the Rams kicked a field goal to win, bringing an amazing Chicago Bears season to an end. What an incredible story that was, and a fantastic job by Ben Johnson. And I really hope that he is considered as one of the coaches of the year, but we'll come to that very shortly. Gito, what did you make of? Did you have a chance to see either the Seattle San Francisco game or the Rams Chicago game?
Yeah, both. The Seattle Seahawks, that game had everything for them. Not only it was an offensive masterclass, it was a defensive masterclass as well. 41-6. And those 6 points were 2 field goals for the 49ers. The 49ers were clumsy, I thought. You know, poor third downs, poor fourth downs as well. Kenneth Walker, the third running back, 3 touchdowns, 116 yards. A great game that was. The opening kickoff from the 49ers led to a Rashid Shaheed
Yeah.
touchdown at 93 yards. And Darnold threw to Jackson Smith and Jackman, who's been a great partnership throughout the season. Yeah, like you said, Darnold doesn't really need to do a whole lot because he's got so many people around him that could do so much for the team, that could take him all the way. And yeah, an absolute masterclass. And yeah, it proves how good the Seahawks are. They were dark horses. I think now they are the actual real deal in this Final Four playoffs. And spoiler alert for later on, but I do see them going all the way. But we will get to that later on.
Yeah.
The Rams and the
Yeah.
Bears. Yeah, the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, what a season they've had. That fourth down throw from Caleb Williams, he can do everything now. You know, he's got his stock has gone up massively, if not if it already has, but it's gone even massively, and there'll be a lot of eyes on Caleb Williams next season. It'll be interesting to see what the Chicago Bears do during the off season, during the draft as well. But Matthew Stafford didn't even throw a touchdown in that game. I don't believe it was all Kyron Williams with the running backs.
Kyron Williams,
87 yards, 2 touchdowns, and ultimately they won by a field goal. So 20-17. So the Rams, yeah, they had to scrape on that one. It could have gone either way, but ultimately it led to a Rams win, which leads us to a Seahawks Rams NFC Championship game, which is a very exciting game on paper.
Oh, Guitar, I genuinely, to be honest with you, I can't call either game. I'd be massively surprised if the Patriots don't come through on the AFC side. However, honestly, on the NFC side, I can't call it because I genuinely thought that the Bears were going to beat the Rams, that we're going to be one step too far. And I know that it's going to be an extremely hostile environment up in Seattle, potentially very cold as well. But the Rams have proven that they can win in snow, hail, wind, a little bit of everything. So they're such a dogged team, and I think that just Matt Stafford is just willing them all the way to the Super Bowl. However, I have to say I genuinely don't see. I can't see a way that Seattle aren't making the Super Bowl, Guitar, and I think it would be a massive injustice if they don't make the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, we'll come back briefly to the previews just before we end. Should we talk some coaches? We're gonna let's start off with the Falcons because a week ago that we were talking about who's interviewing where. Um, and I remember you, Gito, saying that your number one candidate for the Falcons job would be Clint Kubiak,
Yeah.
the OC, the offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks. However, it turned out that is someone very, very different. A two-time Coach of the Year, former coach of the Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski. Now then, Gito, I have a lot of questions for you here. A, what was your first impressions after you heard that announcement? And B, I've heard a lot of backlash from Falcons fans saying that they're
Mm.
very, very unhappy with this choice. What do you say?
Mm. So yeah, initially when we spoke a couple of weeks ago when Raheem got fired, I was looking at the current candidates, and one name I did mention that I was very excited about was Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. He was interviewed. He has been
Mm,
interviewed. He's only had one interview with all of the teams that he's been interviewed with so far. I do believe that the reason they didn't go for Clint is because obviously he's still in the playoffs with the Seattle Seahawks. He wants to focus on his team making it to the Super Bowl. I
mm,
absolutely get that. At the beginning, Kevin Stefanski didn't excite me as much. But after looking more into his resume and everything, two-time Coach of the Year, the job that he's done with the Cleveland Browns as well, taking him to the playoffs twice, with the franchise pretty much on his knees, pretty much. The last two seasons has been kind to him, which is fair enough, and they decided to fire him. And it was just, as of last week, Kevin Stefanski has been hired by the Atlanta Falcons. Personally, I'm content. I am quite happy with this. I can
okay.
understand where the backlash comes from, but I think they need to look even further than the last 2 or 3 years because he is pretty much an NFL experienced coach. He's got playoff experience. Obviously, he hasn't gone too far with the Cleveland Browns in the playoffs, but he knows what he can do. And as of a couple of days ago, we've also hired Tommy Rees, the offensive coordinator, as well. And we have also capped Jeff
Yes.
Ulbrich, our defense coordinator from last season, who complemented our defense a lot this season, especially our two rookies. So I believe going into the new season, we have with Matt Ryan at the helm as well, and we're still in the hunt for a general manager as well. We have a pretty stable, and I'm pretty confident about this coaching staff. I really am. So, look, talking about football, soccer for a second, I support a team that's used to managerial changes. David, you should know I'm a Cardiff City fan. So, um,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, so I'm pretty used to every coaches that comes in, you have to back them, right? So I'm 100% behind
Mm.
the Stefanski train. I'm 100% backing him. Hopefully he does well. Same with Tommy Rees as well. I do hope he works out. And with the candidates I was running for other jobs, obviously John Harbaugh would have been a dream as well. If it wasn't for Clint, I think John Harbaugh was more of a dream than a prediction sort of thing. So, but yeah, I'm pleased
Sure.
with Kevin Stefanski. I did not. I was worrying for him that we would have gone for Robert Saleh. I just did not want Robert Saleh joining our team. He has now gone
Mm.
to the Tennessee Titans. All the best for him, obviously. But no, I'm happy with Kevin Stefanski.
Um, the one thing that I'll say about Stefanski's tenure at Cleveland, outside of Baker Mayfield, he didn't really have a quarterback.
No.
Obviously after Baker, that whole drama with Deshaun Watson went down. He got injured,
Yeah.
and then he's been flirting with Joe Flacco over the last couple of years. Dominique Robinson was another one. I mean, they've had 8 starting quarterbacks, I think, and then obviously this year they've had Dylan Gabriel as well and Shedeur Sanders. Neither of them showed any sort of potential in the NFL at all. So give him a decent quarterback, aka a veteran like Kirk Cousins for going to be at least for half of the season with the Falcons, and then Michael Penix
Yeah.
Jr. as well. I'm very intrigued to see what Stefanski can do with the caliber of talent that the Falcons do have on offense. And I will hold myself to what I said at the beginning of this season. The Falcons, when everyone is healthy, has a top five unit,
Mm.
100%.
Yeah.
Especially with Drake London's breakout season, Bijan
Mm-hmm.
as well, and obviously whoever, if it's going to be Penix or if it's going to be Cousins or whoever as well. So, like I said, I'm very, very intrigued, but I'm very happy as
Yeah.
well that you're content because I was a little bit, I was a little bit worried that you would be a little bit underwhelmed about this,
Mm.
about this news about Stefanski. But there we are. So we move on. Um, I I am going to talk just briefly about the Dolphins, Guitar, because there's not much to
Please
say
do. Please
because
do.
the
Yeah.
Dolphins have they've gone into scorch earth mode. That is, they got rid of their GM, their head coach, and their quarterback within the last 6 weeks. So
Mm.
now Miami Dolphins has turned into what we like to say. We have a new nickname for the Dolphins now. We are now called Green Bay South. So we
Oh.
got John Eric Sullivan from Green Bay, and now we got the former defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley as our new head coach as well. And
Yeah.
from what I've heard, Gitor, if you read the tea leaves per se, another Green Bay staff member, their quarterbacks coach, is potentially going to join the Dolphins as their offensive coordinator, which opens the
Mm.
door for one Malik Willis to join the Dolphins, which I am very intrigued about. Malik
Mm.
Willis hasn't played a lot of football, but when he has, when he stepped in, when Jordan Love has been injured over the last 2 years, he's done exceptionally well. He's done
Yeah.
very, very well. The only thing, Gitter, that's going to sting the Dolphins is obviously their decision on what to do with Tua Tagovailoa. So we're going to be
Yeah.
in cap hell for potentially the next 2 years, potentially, because we're gonna take a dead cap hit of up to 100 million.
Mm.
Whether the Dolphins want to do what the Broncos did with Russell Wilson, rip the band-aid off, take that in one chunk in 1 year, or they want to spread it out over 2 years. If they want to do 60, 35, or whatever, I'll be intrigued to see what the Dolphins do. From it again, maybe initially it wasn't I guess the sexy kind of name out there. You're not your John Harbour.
Mm.
Another finalist that got a second interview with the Dolphins. So Robert Saleh got a second interview with the Dolphins as well. And there were rumours as well that the Dolphins were potentially going to go after Sean McDermott, but I'm glad that that didn't happen. So ultimately,
Mm.
we're left with Jeff Hafley, and you're going to have to come back to me, Gito, in around 12 months' time, because obviously I don't know a lot about the boy. I don't know much about him. He's been a head
Yeah.
coach in Boston College for 4 years. He's been
Mm.
the DC of the Green Bay Packers for the last 2 years. They've been top five units in the last 2 years as well. So the signs are good, but this is a massive rebuild for the Dolphins. So I don't think we're going to be a good team, a decent team for maybe at least another season or two. So I'm going to leave the Dolphins there. You've mentioned Robert Saleh, who's gone to the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh was the big one. Maybe the obvious one was that that he matched up with the New York Giants.
Mm.
Has there been another appointment in
Uh,
terms of head coaching?
so the Baltimore Ravens have hired Jesse Minter.
Ravens. Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
correct.
Um, we we need to talk about the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, they fired Sean
Yeah.
McDermott. Now, uh, my first thought of who they were going to hire as the head coach, I thought they were going to promote Joe Brady, their offensive coordinator. I
Yes.
think
Me too.
that would have been a decent shout for the Buffalo Bills. But who's had an interview with the Buffalo
Hmm.
Bills? none other than former Indianapolis Colts quarterback who just came back from retirement, who is the current head coach of St. Michael's Catholic, based in Alabama, Philip Rivers, has had an interview with the Buffalo Bills. This one is baffling, to say the least.
Yeah, this doesn't sit well with me, Gito. I don't know about you. This is very, very strange. In terms of, I know it was very, very weird when we saw Philip Rivers come back and ultimately play for the Colts in the regular season. I think him turning out and having an interview to be a coach of an NFL franchise, and especially the Buffalo Bills, who have won the AFC South, AFC West, AFC East, goodness me, for the last 5 years. It just screams, well, either some sort of interconnection, or I genuinely thought that this was a joke when I saw the bulletin coming up. Outside of Philip Rivers, Gito, some of the people that the Bills have targeted, again, a little bit strange for me. So they're interviewing former Chargers coach Anthony Lynn. They're interviewing former or current, I guess, Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, and another left field one for me is they're interviewing former Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel as well, who apparently has taken the OC job with the Chargers in LA and Justin Herbert. The only reason that he wouldn't take that job is if he would be successful getting another head coach. So he's interviewed for the Falcons head job, for the Cleveland Browns, and now Buffalo as well, and Baltimore as well, actually, and now Buffalo. I can't see McDaniel going to Buffalo at all. Honestly, Gato, I genuinely don't know who's going to go to Buffalo. I was exactly like you. I thought it was going to be Joe Brady. But now I have absolutely no idea who's going to go there. It's so wide open.
Yeah. I think some teams are waiting until the end of the playoffs to see the Clint Kubiak situation, because I think he's on everyone's radar.
Sure.
Especially Falcons radar as well.
And
so maybe that's what they're going to do.
potentially another candidate, sorry, that we haven't talked about is Rams defensive coordinator Chris Shula as well. I think he's another name to look out for.
Yeah. There was also rumors before the Ravens went for Jesse Minter that they were going to go for Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores, who does have a little bit of history with Baltimore Ravens, I believe. But Flores has signed a new deal with the Vikings to be for the next few years. Vic Fangio is another name I've seen mentioned around places as well. The defensive coordinator of the Eagles.
Yes, Vic Fangio. Just quickly, Gato, the Brian Flores. There's a lot to unpack there. So that's mainly down to inner politics in the NFL. So basically, Brian Flores sued the NFL over discrimination. Basically, when he was a coach, when he was fired by the Miami Dolphins 3 or 4 years ago, and this is still ongoing. So people are basically saying that the NFL, whilst this lawsuit is ongoing, Brian Flores will not be head coach of an NFL franchise. So this screams out for me, because I genuinely thought that he was either going to go to Pittsburgh, where he was a former defensive coordinator, or he was going to go to Baltimore. Both would have fitted perfectly for me, and apparently he made a very, very good impression whilst he was at Pittsburgh as well. So again, Dolphins defensive coordinator and Anthony Weaver has a second interview with Pittsburgh. I can see him going there. So there's still, you've got openings. So we've still got openings in Cleveland, Arizona, Pittsburgh, and now Buffalo. And Las Vegas, sorry. Las Vegas was the last one as well.
Yeah.
So, like you said, I think we're potentially waiting for the playoffs or potentially the Super Bowl to finish, and then we might
Yeah.
see some more. Clint Kubiak definitely, I think, is going to be a head coach, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Shula would be as well, especially if the Rams get to the Super Bowl. Sorry, should we go? Should we go to some awards, Gito? Shall we
Yes.
see who the finalists are for MVP, um, Coach of the Year, and maybe we
Yeah.
could tap in Defensive or Rookie of the Year as well. So the final, Gito, you tell us first of all, because you've got the list in front of you. Who are the finalists
Yeah.
first of all for MVP this year?
Okay. So the MVP, most valuable player, our candidates are Josh Allen, Drake May, Christian McCaffrey, Matthew Stafford, and this one might be a bit of a surprise to everyone. Trevor Lawrence of the Jacksonville Jaguars. An interesting pick for MVP there, I believe.
I personally, Gito, would include Trevor Lawrence more as a comeback player of the year, if you know what I mean.
He has been nominated for Comeback of the Year as well.
That would make sense. For me, Gito, obviously it's going to be between Drake May and Matthew Stafford.
Of course.
For
Yeah,
me,
100%.
if it personally, I would still give it to Stafford. Personally, a lot of people are going to want to give it to Drake May because of, it's only his second year in the NFL. He's into an AFC Championship game. The Patriots, I think, only winning 5 or 6 games last year, so it's obviously some massive turnaround. However, I've got a few things to say about the Patriots as well here. They've got a brilliant head coach, a very, very talented defense. But the one thing that stings for me and that hurts Drake May is the opposition that they've had a really, really easy schedule during the regular season. That's the only thing that's going to hold me back. And potentially, in my eyes, Matthew Stafford has been more consistent. He's thrown for the most yards in the NFL as well. And obviously the Rams are in a more competitive division. Look who's come out. I mean, you've got the Niners, the Rams, and the Seahawks coming out of that division in the playoffs. And I think they've had better wins than the Patriots. For me, they've had a tougher schedule, and the connection between Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua for me has been second to none. It's been absolutely incredible. So I definitely give it to Stafford this year.
Yeah, I think I'm on the edge as well with giving it to Stafford as well. I think, like you said, he's had the more difficult season in terms of the scheduling. I do think that the Patriots have done a really good job to reach the point that they have, even with the easier schedule between the two teams. And it would be interesting to see how they do against the Denver Broncos this weekend in the Sunday. But Stafford's going to have a very difficult game against the Seahawks as well. So it would be interesting to see how they should fare in the championship games on Sunday. I'm going to go to the comeback of the year, comeback player of the year, because we already mentioned Trevor Lawrence. Another player who's down for MVP and comeback player of the year is Christian McCaffrey. And there's 3 more contenders on there. Stephon Diggs, which for me is the winner on this one, I think, considering how he's come into this Patriots team. So Aiden Hutchinson is another name. And finally, Dak Prescott of the Cowboys.
That's a rather strange one for me. So, were you saying that you'd give this award to Stephon Diggs?
I would, yeah, I would. Just from the way that everything started for him with him joining the team, being released last season, and I thought it was a good pick in free agency. I was a big fan of it. And yeah, I'd personally give this to Stephon Diggs because of how he's helped the team to reach this point of the season as well.
Yeah. I'd probably give it to either McCaffrey or Trevor Lawrence if I'm on. I'd actually, do you know what? I'd give it to Trevor Lawrence. I would, because obviously he was when being the number one pick. What was it, 4 or 5 years ago? He was deemed as the next best thing in terms of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He's had some. He had a terrible rookie season under Urban Meyer, and he's had some success with Jacksonville. However, to be fair, Liam Cohen has taken Trevor Lawrence to newer heights. I genuinely didn't think that Trevor Lawrence had that type of game in him. Well, that we haven't seen since he was in Clemson in college. So I would probably give it to Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. Trevor Lawrence will probably be my number 2 pick as well on this one. Obviously, we gave him a bit of an ultimatum at the start of the season. This was probably his last chance, and he's done really well this season, absolutely. And he's done really well under Liam Cohen.
Look how he's responded, exactly.
Exactly, yeah. Speaking of Liam Cohen, let's go to Coach of the Year. So Liam Cohen from the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan of the 49ers. No surprise here, I don't believe. Probably the winner, Ben Johnson of the Bears. Mike Vrabel, New England Patriots. And finally, Mike McDonald of the Seattle Seahawks. I personally would go with Ben Johnson on this one.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
No doubt in mind.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to the Defensive Rookies of the Year. I'm a big fan of this list. So you've got Abdul Carter for the Giants, Nick Emenori for the Seattle Seahawks, Carson Schwarzenegger of the Washington Commanders, and there's 2 Falcons players on this list. 2 number 1 picks from the previous draft picks, James Pierce Jr. and Xavier Watts, who's both has had exceptional seasons for the Falcons. A lot of people think that we actually won the trade in the end, even though we don't get a first-round pick this year. So that trade has worked out for the best for us, and we've got 2 great defenders here who has a long career ahead for the Atlanta Falcons. And yeah, both of them have made the shortlist for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm going to give you the Offensive Rookie of the Year now as well quickly. We spoke about this player very highly at the start of the season. Emeka Egbuka for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, he got injured and he came back. Jackson Dart, Trevayon Henderson, Taterora McMillan, and Tyler Shuck. Who do you think wins this one?
Oh, I would probably give it to McMillan personally, because he's made such a difference to, first of all, to the Carolina offense, and secondly, he's become that number 1 weapon for Bryce Young, and we've seen a different side of Bryce Young this year, I believe. Carolina are far from a stable team, but at times they looked like an offensive powerhouse, and I think Ted McMillan has a lot to do with that. So the way that he's been, I mean, obviously I think we got a little bit carried away with the opening 5 or 6 games that Emeka Egbuka had, because it was just, breaking all sorts of records in terms of rookies as well. But if you're looking at the whole season, I'd ultimately give it to Ted McMillan personally.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think Ted McMillan would be the winner in this one. Trevayon Henderson, he's done okay. He's done pretty good for the New England Patriots as well. I think
He has.
I think the problem with Kevin Henderson is the Patriots haven't had to rely on him as much, considering the other running backs that they've got in the team. So he's done a few snaps here and there during games, and he's taken advantage of those snaps as well. Jackson Dart obviously got injured. He's turned the Giants franchise around, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Jackson Dart's going to do with Jim Harbaugh as now this new head coach. And the Saints have found their new quarterback in Chuck as well. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of season they have next season as well.
Yeah.
So some pretty good names on there on the offensive rookie of the year. Yeah, it's great when you see rookies doing really well in their first season in the NFL, I think.
Absolutely. Should we finish off with our predictions, Gito, for the NFC and the AFC Championship games?
Of course. Let's go for it.
Cool. So let's start off on the AFC side again. I think I said it's hard for me to see past the Patriots in this game. Jarrett Stidham, I think. I mean, goodness me, he's had a week preparation. Hasn't played a game for 2 years. There's gonna be a lot of systematic problems in terms of, is he going to be able to is he going to be able to see the right coverage? Is he going to be able to go up to the line and change the plays? I genuinely don't know, Gito. So for me, and I think that the Patriots defense is going to be able to put too much pressure on him, and potentially he's going to get a little bit too overwhelmed. Which is a shame because the Broncos has been, again, a brilliant story. Some people say that the Broncos actually are one of the worst number one seeds in NFL history, which is quite interesting. But that's a conversation for another day. But for me, Gito, I do see the Patriots coming out on top on this one.
Yeah, the more I think about this game, I'm edging towards a Patriots win as well. The whole situation with Jarrett Stidham, like you said, hasn't had a full training. I think he's only had 1 week's training. Is he going to be fit enough to play against his, pretty awkward defense for the New England Patriots? I don't see another Nick Foles type story happening here, to be honest. As much as great of a story that will be for the Denver Broncos, but I think even if Bo Nix was fit for this game, if he didn't have that injury at the last, I think I still would go for a New England Patriots win anyway. So,
me too.
Yeah. And Broncos are missing J.K. Dobbins now as well. That's been reported just before we recorded this podcast. So there'll be no Dobbins for the Broncos either. So I just think the Patriots are going to have the best of nights here between the two teams. So I see the Patriots advancing to the Super Bowl in this one.
Yeah. So then on the NFC side, Gito, this is the game of the week for me, without shadow of a doubt. Like we said, an NFC West showdown between the LA Rams at Seattle Seahawks. My heart says the LA Rams are going to win. My head says that the Seattle Seahawks are going to win. I'd be happy to see both of these teams, either of these teams in the Super Bowl, because both teams are extremely eye-catching. They're really, really good teams to watch on offense, especially. I'd love to see, I'd love to see how Sam Darnold copes with the pressure. Like we've already said in the pod, Gito, we feel like he hasn't really been tested. And if we go back to a couple of weeks ago at the end of the regular season, this is a rematch because it was an extremely high scoring game between these two teams, and ultimately Seattle won in overtime. Or they went for a 2-point conversion at the end, and they actually got it to win the game. Puka Nacua went off for over 200 yards during that game as well, but they were without Devontae Adams. Oh gosh, Gitta, this is so hard for me to call. Do you know what? I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to go. I think the Rams are going to win this one. I don't know why. I just think that they have coaching Stafford, especially with his experience, and ultimately, I think that the Rams are just even if they don't play at their best, like they did against Chicago in the last round, and potentially against Carolina as well. They still won. They still get through these games. So they have that kind of ability for me. So I'm going to go with the Rams in this one.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, like you mentioned, they've played already. They've played against each other twice already this season. The first game was in November, and the Rams won that one 21-19. The second game was a couple of weeks after in December, and the game that you just mentioned that went to overtime, probably the game of the season, of the regular
Yes.
season. The Seattle Seahawks won in overtime 38-37. So both games have been very close in terms of points. From what I've seen in the playoffs, obviously the Seahawks had that week break because they were the number one seed. They had to. It was almost comfortable against the Panthers. It wasn't as smooth as I would hope so, because the Panthers did have their moments and they did expose the defense. They had to rely on overtime again and a field goal to beat the Chicago Bears previously. I think I am going to go differently on this one. I can't see past the Seahawks going through. I think the Seahawks will go through. Like I mentioned, it was a defensive masterclass against the 49ers. Okay, they didn't play well at all, and they didn't score a lot of points, but I think that is all down to the Seahawks defense as well. And obviously I'm intrigued to see the battle with who's going to have the best of nights between Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua. But
Yeah.
I think they're going to rely a lot on Kenneth Walker as well, their running back, because he can break through those defense. I think he could break through any defense. Like we said, Sam Darnold doesn't really have to do that much in the game. He can throw a short pass and they can get 30, 40, 50 yards up from it. That's the team that the Seahawks are, in my opinion. So I think the Seahawks are going to expose a lot of the defense of the Rams. I do think that the Seahawks are going to win this one and will set up a Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. I can't see. I do like the Rams team, but I can't see past the Seahawks.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I can definitely see both reaching the Super Bowl, and even if it was the Rams or the Seahawks reaching the Super Bowl, Gito, I'm not sure about you. I think they'd still be favourites over the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I ultimately think that the NFC this year has been stronger in terms of the caliber of teams than the AFC. The AFC, like we've said, has been so unprecedented with the rise of the Colts, the Jaguars, the comeback that the Houston Texans did, obviously the fall of the AFC North with Pittsburgh and Baltimore being so poor this year, and the rise of the Patriots as well, and obviously the Chiefs not making the playoffs. So it's been a topsy-turvy one year for the AFC. But the NFC, you've got brilliant storylines with Chicago, ultimately with the Seahawks as well, the Rams, the Niners, so many really, really good teams, even the Packers and the Lions as well. Lions not even making the playoffs, which is crazy. I ultimately think that the NFC team, whoever that will be favourite against probably the Patriots over the Broncos. So there we are. That's our preview, Guitar. Just before we put an end to this episode, I'm sure that we want to give a shout out to some flag football, actually, that we have here in Wales. Guitar, you take over on this one if you may.
Okay. So there is an event going on. This is going to be on Sunday, the 1st of March. It's the St. David's Day Welsh Flag Football Tournament. This will be held in the Eastern Community Campus, Townbridge, Rumney in Cardiff. Starts at 10 o'clock, finishes at 4 o'clock. Like I said, Sunday the 1st of March. This is it's called the Welsh Bowl. I believe this is the 4th or 5th edition of this tournament. Some group guys that we've just met online, and they host this pretty much every year. A couple of teams have already announced that they will be taking part. Some Welsh American football teams, including the Cardiff Storm, the Cardiff Bay Coyotes, and the Rhondda Red Kites, have said that they're going to participate so far. So, plenty more teams to take part of that as well. I'll put everything in the description, the links to their Instagram, to their Facebook. If you want to know about more about this event, message us, or we'll send a link to their socials as well for you to let them know. But yeah, it's great to see that we have a tournament going on for a Wales only adult flag American football tournament here as well. So great to see, and I hope it's a great event. I'll try my best to be down there, David. I don't know about you, but yeah, pretty exciting stuff happening in Wales around the American football world.
Well, to be fair, I have no excuse because it's literally in my backyard compared to you up in Pwllheli. I mean, it's a long drive for Guto, fair play. So yeah, if anyone's going to be representing the NFL Cymru pod, it's probably going to be me because I'm a Cardiff boy. But anyway, yes, absolutely. Flag football. Obviously it's very different without the contact, obviously, but it's still the same rules apply, and anything that is used to promote the game here in Wales is absolutely fantastic. So best of luck, and like we said, hopefully we'll try and make it down there, both of us or at least one of us representing the pod as well, because I know those fields very, very well. I used to play rugby as a young boy on those fields. So there we are. I believe we've covered quite a lot there in terms of the divisional games. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the head coaching jobs. Those have been filled and those are still available. I'm guessing, Guto, that over the next couple of days / week following the AFC and the NFC Championship game, we might see a few more head coaching jobs finalised. I'll be very intrigued to see if the Buffalo Bills is still open after this round. Potentially, it's actually just come to mind to me that the perfect man to go in there. Can you imagine seeing Kubiak going to be head coach at Buffalo?
Yeah, 100%. I think that will be a great fit for him. I think with the job that he's done in Seattle, he was also nominated for assistant coach of the year, Clint Kubiak, by the way. So shows what good job he's actually done. So yeah, at top of my head at the moment, I think Buffalo Bills or even the Pittsburgh Steelers would be a good fit for Clint Kubiak.
Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Well, there we are. I believe we've covered everything there. So obviously we're down to 2 games before the Super Bowl in 2 weeks' time. Obviously we're going to be back previewing the Super Bowl and reviewing, I guess, the 2025-2026 NFL season. And like I said, looking forward to the big one in 2 weeks' time. Obviously both of us are intrigued to see who will get there. And we will be back in accordance in time to preview that as well. But from myself and from Guto and from all of us here at the NFL Cymru podcast, hope you enjoy the NFC and the AFC Championship game over the weekend. Yes, absolutely. Please join us for another episode of the NFL Cymru pod very, very shortly. We're on socials at NFL Cymru, on Instagram. Watch this on YouTube as well. We're still growing on there. And if you want to have a chat with us, please talk to us on socials as well. We're on X and all sorts of things like that. So, like I said, from myself and Guto, no star, thank you so much. See you again soon.